my one piece of advice would be to take the time to listen to people who believe in the organization. That's not just the people who are working in the organization right now, but the people who really are inspired by and who believe in the organization, because those are the words that communicate and can sustain over time what the identity of an organization is. And if you can find a way to integrate your goals, your vision, your values with those words and with those elements that people tell you are the reason to believe.
Welcome to Radical Cooperation. I'm your host, Dr. Michael Horowitz, Chancellor of the Community Solution Education System. Over my 40 years in higher education, I've learned that the most impactful institutions are the ones that embrace their strengths, refine their missions, and align their efforts with the needs of their communities. So I'm very excited today to dive into the idea of embracing what you do best in higher education. And I'm welcoming my great Irish colleague, Dr. Breeda McGrath, President of Pacific Oaks College and Children's School, an iconic institution. Pacific Oaks is part of the Community Solution Education System, so I know it well. And since stepping into the role of President, Dr. McGrath, you've continued to build on Pacific Oaks' legacy of leadership in early childhood education and community impact. So I'd love to hear more about Pacific Oaks and also what drove you to take this position only 6 months ago.
Oh gosh, so much I can tell you. Let's see if I can condense it. So Pacific Oaks College and Children's School is located in Pasadena, California, and we educate college students all over the country and the world. Our children's school serves children ages 2 to 5, and it's located here in Pasadena, and it's a school that's been running for 80 years this year. The college grew out of the children's school, and we educate teachers, we educate marriage and family therapists, we educate social workers, community business leaders, and we have programs that are both in person and online and also hybrid. And we have everything from certificate programs to doctoral degrees. Our values are respect, diversity, inclusion, and social justice. And people love to come here because they really feel that they are seeing our student retention, our student success, our student advising model is something to boast about. And so people are always excited to be what we call part of the PO family.
Well, that is excellent. And yes, noting your 17 years within our system as faculty member and leader within the Chicago School. So I think of radical cooperation as often beginning with recognizing particular strengths and then leveraging them to make a difference. I think you've noted some of them just now for Pacific Oaks. So let's start by discussing how colleges can identify and embrace their unique missions. And maybe you can say a few words about that. You had this long career at the Chicago School. You're moving within our system, new institution. How did you get your head around, this is the mission of this college and children's school, and here's what I'm going to hone in on?
That's a great question. The values, I think, were one of the first things that I started to explore. The values of Pacific Oaks are respect, inclusion, diversity, and social justice. And there's some overlap and some integrated activity across all of our colleges in the system there. And those are values that I would hold dear. And I wanted to be able to see if, in fact, this is the experience of both students, and faculty and teachers, and indeed it is. And I think the superpower that Pacific Oaks has is that it has maintained those values over the years, right, throughout the changes in education, throughout the changes in communities, and being able to sustain certain elements of identity while also adapting to changes in life, changes in communities, changes in the environment, that's been something that I think has helped Pacific Oaks to thrive. And I was initially asking those very straightforward questions when we were talking about the possibility. What are the values? Do people live the values? How do they look in the community? Does it feel this way for community members? Does Pacific Oaks show up that way for students, for faculty, for alumni? And then being able to figure out whether or not these values are relevant for the future and if they should continue or we should continue focusing on the same niche areas. And so the answers that are emerging to some of those initial questions are that yes, focusing on education, focusing on teacher training, focusing on early childhood, and in fact, the whole lifespan continues to be something that's relevant to the community. It also continues to be something that the community expects from Pacific Oaks. And so being a recognizable entity, being a recognizable partner within the community and staying true to those core values has been something that's been essential and kind of core to the success of Pacific Oaks. I think the challenge, once you can say yes to those questions about whether it still is what people thought that we were, the challenge is to then adapt, right? How do you evolve and continue staying true to values and yet meet changing needs in the world? And so I think that's something where Pacific Oaks has been working hard to adapt and to continue to be relevant as life changes, as community changes, and still being a place where people can feel respected, which is part of the way people see themselves at Pacific Oaks.
Breeda, you used the term superpower, which was awesome. And I have often thought of niche superpowers that ideally any college or university would find. You've discussed early childhood and other values, teacher training. How do you see that niche of early childhood education and teacher training giving you a base to thrive and build on?
Well, I think that the bonus that Pacific Oaks has is that early childhood teacher training and human development in general is what we're recognized for and known for in the community. So we have an advantage over other colleges that we are known this long, and we're known as having educated people for the past 80 years in these areas. So as things change, we already have that foothold in the public's consciousness. They expect us to be able to meet some needs around human development as culture changes, right? As trends in education change and as technology changes. So our way of looking at it could be that it's a challenge to continue to adapt, but in fact, the benefit of it is that it's a bonus that the community already expects this from us. So a concrete example of this would be if we're known for education and teacher training, and this is an age of technology, then we are expected to adapt to changes in technology, and we're expected or given the opportunity to show the world how this can work well at the various different ages and how both it can be incorporated into teacher training as well as into student learning. And that's something where we've been able to do that. We have a stage to be able to showcase why we're good at this and what others can do in this area because they already look to us for expertise. They already look to us to be able to evolve and bring groups together to work in that evolution. You know, we have partnerships with school districts and various different entities that are involved in education throughout the community, and they're always willing to come together to work on it in coalition as opposed to just expecting us to do it, you know, by ourselves. Being in this area of education, being in the teacher training business, people already assume that you will work together, right? That you're into coalition building, that you're into shared resources, that you're into kind of shared solutions. And so it's just such a benefit to stay within our um, kind of reputation, to stay within that superpower idea, continuing to thrive within the areas that we have expertise. Because the key in higher ed is this: everybody's trying to deal with the same challenges. How do you embrace technology? How do you figure out where the growth areas are in the world of work? Everyone's trying to solve for that and to solve for the new emerging fields of work that we don't yet know about. But you're ahead of the game as an educator and as a college if you do it within your area of superpower, within your domain of expertise. The playing field can be quite level if everyone's grasping for the same emerging new fields. But if you already have depth of field, depth of expertise in specific areas like education, like counseling, then at least you know the traditional frames of reference. And if you focus on how these fields are going to evolve, then you're ahead of the game and you're stronger than just trying to adapt to new areas, new fields, or whatever the flavor of the month is.
Yeah, I know you and I have talked about that outside this podcast. So, and I love the phrase "in coalition." That's a very good turn of phrase. Absolutely, that captures the opportunities to connect. And you talked about technology a lot. You have a lot of experience with that. So, now Pacific Oaks will be thinking about technology in educating teachers and others. It's not likely to be the place to become an engineer for Google or Apple. So I think that's a very important distinction in terms of, honing in. I just saw a video. I don't know if it's out being used yet, that I thought it was really good, with Dr. Judy Krause from Pacific Oaks narrating. Essentially, this is what Pacific Oaks is, and she covers the history a little bit, the Quaker families that founded the children's school. There's the photos, there's pictures of the children in the children's school. And she weaves, though, the tapestry all the way to the newest programs of social work, as one example, where she's noting, this through line of the values of early childhood are all there all the way through.
It's a very important thing for us to be able to communicate that to the community, right? That there is a link and there is a rationale behind the kinds of programs that we put forward. And I think the learning experience is one of those factors. The way in which students feel seen, feel respected, and also feel compelled to make a difference in their community. That's an important theme throughout all of our programs, whether it's education and teacher training, or it's marriage and family therapy, or it's social work. We believe in the ecosystem of the community within which children and families exist. And our goal is to serve all of those aspects of the ecosystem, and also to have our students and faculty share with us the ideas and opportunities that they see emerging, right? The ways in which we can continue to put forward our core values and our way of being in the world, but also embracing the changing world that we live in, right? The changing technology opportunities that, that are present for us. So one of the interesting conversations I had this week was with a teacher at the children's school who is moving into an instructional position at the college, a faculty position at the college. And it's a very exciting opportunity to be able to see that transition and see how we can benefit from the connections between the children's school and the college, but also ensuring that what the college is grappling with around questions around technology, how that can be brought back to the children's school. And so my conversation was about, how do we help early childhood educators? And how do we help teachers in a school that's mostly outdoor, play-based, progressive education, experientially based education? How do we help those teachers look positively at technology and really reap the benefits of it, even if it doesn't initially match what they think we do in a classroom with children? And then broadcasting that out to the community to say, none of this is an either or in terms of technology or teaching methodology or pedagogy. It's both and, right? We need to embrace all of the tools and resources that are available to us and make sure that we're not just bound by our own imaginations, but that we come together to be able to maximize the outcomes for both the children in the children's school and for the learners at the college, and also the faculty who themselves are always learners and in development and moving towards kind of better things all the time.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Certainly, there are some other universities that have a children's school, though in my experience, not many. So that's a very unique position you have, leading institution that has preschoolers and predominantly working adults at a college. And that is an interesting way you're weaving together, really, in terms of using the same faculty, also conceptually how you're tying the two together. Now, speaking of in coalition, as you said, I understand that Pacific Oaks has partnered with the Sacramento, California Office of Education. There's a residency program that you're working with Pacific Oaks. And again, talk about technology distance. You're in Pasadena. That's a long way from Sacramento. What's going on with that program? What are you doing?
Yeah, what we do through our partnerships is a really important part of sustaining a college that trains teachers in the current times. We listen to our partnerships with school districts and with other colleges and community agencies to hear what their needs are and then figure out whether we can meet some of those needs. And those dialectical conversations are going on all the time. So when California decided that transitional kindergarten, or TK, was an important aspect of early childhood development and education, different school districts and county offices of education were making decisions about how they could meet that need and how they could train their teachers. Well, we already had that early childhood programming. And so we offered to, and they asked us also to provide some of that certification for their teachers so that they would be qualified, well qualified, to be able to provide that right away. It's really serving all sectors of population. While we serve families with a private school who are looking for early childhood programming, we do that in a private way. Here with the Sacramento County Office of Education, we are training teachers who will be able to do that for the public school systems. And so it's ensuring that the expertise and the relationship are what drives everything that we do. So we train their teachers remotely. And then we also have residencies where we're training them in person. We set up cohorts that match their need, that help them prepare for both present and future population needs. And we also work with a variety of different partners to make sure that both offices of education, public school districts, and then private agencies are ready to meet the certification requirements and standards using best practices and using the model that we know they really enjoy at Pacific Oaks.
That is awesome. I love that idea. And you've extended community way past the local area. It's fair to say that you also educate university students all over the United States.
We sure do. We actually have a doctoral program in early childhood education as well. And we have conversations regularly with community college faculty and a variety of different folks on that whole training spectrum in education. You know, we meet educators at every level of their development. And so it's our goal to be able to train people from cradle to grave, you know, to be able to meet the needs as both the field of education evolves and as they find themselves at different levels of their careers. So one of the things that the faculty note about the relationship with our alumni is that many people will say, oh, I'm part of the PO family, and they'll map out how many times they came back and were part of PO throughout their lives. They may have come to the children's school as a toddler, and then later they came back to Pacific Oaks to do maybe their bachelor's in early childhood. And then they may have gone on into even social work or into marriage and family therapy or even into organizational leadership and business management. And they boast about what different roles they had. Many of them also come back to serve as adjunct faculty And then later, what we're finding with our early childhood doctorate is that a high percentage of folks in that program are previous PO alumni. So, yeah, it seems to be a community that attracts folks to stay within for a long time.
Yeah, talk about enduring connection and, as you put it, cradle to grave. Now, in terms of the technology interface, we share that being part of the community solution. Uh, do you have some observations? You've been a long time leader within our system, but on this notion of shared infrastructure, technology being one part of it, there are many other elements. So, what are your observations now as a college president, being part of a system with shared infrastructure? How has it impacted your work?
The primary benefit that I see and that I'm very grateful for is the shared expertise. You know, we have benefited for a long time from the shared resources and the ability to be able to negotiate better contracts and, larger resource pools because we're a group of colleges. But now in this position as a president, what I see standing large in my perspective is the shared expertise. I can pitch a question to any of our colleagues about an aspect of either academic or operational functioning, and I get a multidisciplinary response. We have such a fellowship of shared expertise that it just means that everything is improved, right? The openness of our sharing and the openness of our collaboration means that every area is available for improvement. And that's just been tremendous. And the longevity that we have across our colleges and across our leadership has really meant that we have learned from risks and successes. We've learned from changes over all these past years. I mean, 17 years is a long time to be observing and learning and watching. And it's wonderful to be able to see what we have learned across the years, both about each of the individual areas, whether they're operational or academic, but also that holistic perspective to what we've done together and how we've paid attention to culture and learned in a more holistic way. You can really miss out if you only look at the macro or you only look at the micro. And this has given us a much more holistic perspective where we're making wise choices based on kind of that multidisciplinary approach. And I think it was a very wise choice to really encourage each of the colleges to maintain their own cultures, maintain their own areas of expertise and their unique histories, while at the same time finding areas of shared growth, right? Shared improvement and continuous drive to meet the needs of our communities. And to look at that, to look at the community as the whole rather than just local.
Yeah, that's really good. You're hitting my passion for radical cooperation and community. We have this interesting large bucket, I think, of literal shared infrastructure, whether it's technology, finance, and we have this whole other part of the diagram that is the community, the people, their wisdom, skill, the learnings we get from each other. As you said, we make mistakes, we can share them, we have successes, we can seek to emulate them, and that helps us balance all the traditions that are part of this broad community with innovation. You and I have also talked about vision. We're both at different points in building the vision for Pacific Oaks and for the system overall. And we've dabbled a bit in Zing Train visioning methodology. What do you think about as aligning your team, your community around an updated vision or a new vision? And what are your thoughts 6 months in about your vision for Pacific Oaks in the next 3, 5, 10 years?
Well, I'm drawn to a Latin term or a Latin phrase, semper ad meliora. That's the foundation. It's a very simple idea. It's the foundation of my perspective on learning and education. And it's also driving, I suppose, my perspective for Pacific Oaks. Semper ad meliora means always towards better things, always improving, always trying to be best in class. And I believe it's a really simple but important practical approach and guiding light, because every unit, every aspect, every department, every group, and every individual can use that to improve what they're doing. And if everybody's in that vein, right, if everybody's really driven by a little better today, a little better each time we do something, a little better in every project, that can really inform one another, and it also impacts the whole organization. So, always holding ourselves accountable to do a little better with the new information that we have, I think is a really powerful and easy to communicate idea that's relevant to everyone. We do use it sometimes in self care and working out, and I think it's an empowering type of a vision, as opposed to putting goalposts out there that can change. Comparing yourself to others is useful to a point. Comparing yourself to your past may be more empowering, may be more practical, but always hoping to improve and aiming to improve leads you to measure, but also leads you to a driven kind of way of being. And so if we're going to be serving the community, on time and on point, we have to continue to be in the present and trying to improve. And so that's sort of my vision, that the team, I have a tremendous team, and the team has bought into it and has embraced it and helped me see various different ways in which we can apply it every day in ways that I don't know. 6 months can be seen as a pretty short time to be with an organization. And knowing that it's the team that drives everything forward has been a really important piece of that picture. And if everyone is embracing that and sharing their insights and sharing their outcomes, then I think we can get there. And I think that focus of collaboration, radical collaboration, innovation, staying relevant, and staying true to our values is really a strong one, and it's a sustainable approach.
So as we're heading to the finish line, and want to thank you for all the insights today, and you talked about the essence and the values: diversity, social justice, respect. We talked about early childhood. What's one piece of advice you'd give to other leaders regarding embracing your core strengths, knowing what they are and embracing and building on them?
My one piece of advice would be to take the time to listen to people who believe in the organization. That's not just the people who are working in the organization right now, but the people who really are inspired by and who believe in the organization, and understanding the meaning behind the words that they use. Because those are the words that communicate and can sustain over time what the identity of an organization is. And if you can find a way to integrate your goals, your vision, your values with those words and with those elements that people tell you are the reason to believe. So, for example, in Pacific Oaks, people believe in Pacific Oaks because it's a place where you can bring your whole self to work. It's a place where, as a learner, people see you. Understanding what that means and understanding how that can connect with social justice, how that can look like a job opportunity for the future, preparation for jobs in the future. That's really important, because if you can then motivate people to say, what if more people could have that experience of being respected? What if we could bring this experience to a larger sector of the population? That can then galvanize everyone behind your vision and help them move forward together and catch the dream in a way that's meaningful for them. It has to be that the vision is meaningful for everyone. If they can catch that dream, then you have the potential for success. You have to listen first to, what is it people believe in? Why do they think this organization should exist? If you know that and understand that and can match it with action and match it with meaningful goals, then you have something that's running.
Well, I'm confident you and I could go on for hours because we do enjoy talking to each other. You hit on another favorite of mine, which is listening to the outside world. A lot of higher education believes they're super smart because they've talked to themselves. And you made a really powerful point about, of course, you can listen to your team, the people within, and you're going to listen to the people surrounding you in the community. And I think that's really powerful, especially those enduring champions who exist on the outside. So your journey has been a long one from Ireland. Where in Ireland, by the way? I didn't cover it. Where were you born in Ireland?
Athlone is a big town in the center, the very center of Ireland. So yes, I've come a long way.
And you made your way first to Chicago in the United
I
States?
did.
Or
I came to Loyola.
Chicago, Washington, D.C., San Juan, and we're very glad to find you landed here in Pasadena, California. Thank you for sharing your journey and insights on embracing what institutions do best, from identifying niche superpowers to building a culture of focus and collaboration. You've clearly demonstrated that, and you've underscored the importance of staying true to your mission. Stay true to your mission while innovating to meet new challenges. So, well, to learn more about today's topic, I invite you to connect with Dr. Breeda McGrath on LinkedIn or on the Pacific Oaks College and Children's School website, pacificoaks.edu, and explore Pacific Oaks' inspiring work. For more insights into radical cooperation, subscribe to the podcast and follow me on LinkedIn. Thank you for joining us on Radical Cooperation. Together, we can create a future where institutions thrive by focusing on what they do best. See you next time.